Guys, I'm here with the millionaire mentor, Troy Kearns. Troy and I became friends 3 or 4 years ago when he joined my gym down in Westport. He's from Las Vegas. He's in big time into real estate, commercial, residential, and a lot of other stuff too. You're doing coaching.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, give us a background real quick on, because I know you started out as an agent, right?
Yeah. So kind of like my story in a nutshell is grew up poor, grew up in Washington State, a place called Issaquah, Washington. Is actually a really rich area now. My parents were smart enough to put me in a rich school district, but I was the poor kid. And I don't know what, but I think growing up like from a divorced household and like not having control, like money felt like control. So I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be rich. And I thought originally it was going to be the stock market. I mowed lawns. I teaching my son how to mow lawns right now, but I
saw that.
yeah. So I mowed lawns, like hustling. Just my parents bought me a lawnmower, said, "Hey, you got to mow our lawn. And then whatever money you can make on your own, you can keep, and you got to mow our lawn for free." So I started doing that. Then that led to a paper route at 11 and a half years old. A paper route turned into me getting a job at Burger King. Burger King turned into Red Robin. Worked for Red Robin for 8 years. Worked my way from a DMO, which means dish machine operator. I was the only Anglo-Saxon guy back there that didn't speak, that spoke English. Everybody else spoke Spanish. Worked my way, paid my way through college. Still worked at Red Robin. I had a choice to do either an internship or a thesis. Obviously, I'm going to choose the internship, and I was in communications. So I got a job working at a radio station that I really liked, which was KQBZ, The Buzz, 100.7, BJ Shea. Shout out to BJ Shea. He was like one of my official mentors. Got into that. One of the guys that saw me as a promotions director said, "Hey, you should be in sales. Like, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing." Cause I was still working at Red Robin, making $8 an hour as a promotions director, like running the promotions and working at Red Robin at nights just to pay my bills, bought my first house, condo. And then what happened was, you know, after really crushing everybody's soul in that business, like literally like just a competitive guy.
What business?
Sales. So when I went into sales, so I basically convinced the sales manager to hire me, which looking back, like why wouldn't he? Cause I was 100% commission.
Sure.
But I convinced him to give me a 100% commission job. And so when I did that, I literally, so you have in radio, you have no book of business. Well, you have people who've been there a long time. They have agency business, which agencies are working with all these companies. And they say like, "Yeah, we work this rep, hire him." Well, I didn't have any of that. So I just went out and knocked car dealerships, mortgage lenders, all the stuff that everybody was scared to do. I did it because I had no fear when it came to that because I had nothing to lose. So I ended up getting a lot of the big car dealerships. They became my friends, and I befriended all the general managers up and down I-5. I also went to Tacoma where none of the guys went. We were all based in Seattle, so I drove south. Nobody drove south. So I really dominated and became like a formidable guy, like the number one guy in that station very quickly as a young guy. And then that year, the second year, so first year I made $64,000. Second year I made $215,000 more money than I had ever made in my life, right? Paid $82,000 in taxes. And then my company said, "We're making a format change, and the station that you're selling is now going to be a country station." And I'm like, all my clients were bought and sold on the product I was selling. And I'm like, I just, you know, my first step into corporate world, and all of a sudden my rug gets yanked out from underneath of me. So I won sales club in Las Vegas. My cousin was living in Las Vegas. He says, "Real estate's going crazy." I bought a couple houses down there. So I'm gonna get my once they decided to pull the wool out underneath me, and I went to him and I said, "Hey, I want a guarantee. Like, I've already proven myself. Give me a guarantee because I'm going to lose a bunch of customers. I was pacing to make $400,000 this next year. I'm going to take a hit. Give me at least a guarantee." They said, "Well, we can't do that for you. We have to do that for everybody." That old BS.
Sure.
I'm like, "Well, special people deserve special circumstances." So I used that trip to pay for my real estate education. I stayed an extra week, got my real estate license. And then I said, "Peace out." And I moved down to Las Vegas and became an agent.
So you're doing sales in Seattle. And then due to the switching over to country music caused you to pivot to Las Vegas?
Yeah. So when they did that, I realized that I was not going to make, because I had momentum.
Sure.
I had all these customers that were buying 80% male audience that was a talk station. Okay. And then we moved into country, which is 65% female. I'm going to lose basically all my customers. And so I was like, I'm out of here. And I had considered, like, I didn't want to be the guy living in Seattle his whole life.
Right.
Like all the guys I knew were still in Seattle. Everybody's still in Seattle. So I'm like, if it's now or never. So I don't remember what age I was, 26, 27, 28, something like that. I moved down to Vegas and got my real estate license and burned the ships.
So changing the country was the best thing that could have happened to you.
100%. The best thing that could ever happen to me was moving to Las Vegas, and that happening to me.
Right on. So you were in Vegas. You were splitting your time between Kansas City and Vegas when you and I met.
Right.
And then I was out there. We went to the Raiders game. I was on your podcast.
Yeah.
Are you still doing real estate in Vegas, or are you primarily focused on Kansas City now? So I know you have a massive house now.
Yeah. So I own real estate in Vegas. I don't necessarily do any real estate. I surrendered my real estate license. So I don't have a license anymore. I gave it back to the state because I have to disclose on every deal that I'm buying it, but I'm also Nevada principal licensee. So I just got rid of that. And so what got me to Kansas City was the same pain that got me out of Seattle. Like they did the lockdown during COVID, and I had invested a bunch of properties out here, not planning on moving out here. And then we took an RV a couple times back from Vegas, and I told my wife, I knew she wanted a house. I knew I could get her here with buying her a house. So I was like, I'll build you a house, on 11 acres. That's what I wanted. A nice country. I'm sick of the city. Everybody's robbing everybody in Vegas. Like it's very crime ridden down there. For people who don't know, because they don't talk about it in the US, like there's home invasions. My next door neighbor, like he rented out to multiple people who are in drug cartels, and I lived in a nice $1 million neighborhood.
Right. I've seen your house.
Yeah. So, it brought me out to Kansas City, which is the next best thing that ever happened to me. Right.
Right on.
And so totally happy about it.
Good. No, that's awesome. So between the residential and commercial, which is your bread and butter, which do you prefer, or what are the pros and cons?
So I would say that I have a preference towards residential just because I know it better, but I think the skill set comes into commercial. I think like knowing how to structure a deal and speak to a banker like a banker, and then to raise private capital and to really grow is something that I need to get better at. And so that's my answer, I guess.
Sure. That's what I'm working on now too.
Yeah.
In 2022, you and I went to Dallas for a syndication conference. I'm working on a deal now, and I'm going to bring it to you at some point when I get it built. But that's interesting because if you guys follow Troy, this. You have how many residential properties in your portfolio?
So I think it's over 200. We just went down to Mississippi and we filmed like 63 of them. Like I wanted to show people. So it's on YouTube right now. You could go see because I wanted to put proof out there. We tried to hit all 91 out there, but I've got about a little over 100 here, 91 personally in Mississippi myself. And then me and a partner own about 47. And so I'd say 200 plus single family houses, and then a lot of commercial properties, about 350 total units.
So what do you think is what's the hardest part of the single family residential?
Nothing. It's easy. It is it is the easiest. You buy a cheap house like for less than value, and then put a renter in there or flip it or whatever. It's so easy. People overthink it. Just finding the deal is the hardest part, right?
So sometimes you'll flip it. Sometimes you'll keep it as a rental. What do you use as criteria to determine, hey, this one, is it equity? This one I want to keep. Profit.
Yeah. Like if I'm going to make 25,000 by selling a house, how long is that going to take me to make it in rent?
Right. Okay.
So if it's like, I'm making, because a lot of the properties I own, I don't have any debt on them because one thing I skipped over. So when I bought those properties in Vegas, the two that I bought when I was in Seattle, I bought on speculation.
Explain that.
Okay. So I'm a young guy, not very risk, it's the opposite of adverse, very risk tolerant.
Okay.
Right?
Same.
Yeah. And so my cousin, who's a gym teacher, he's like, hey, these properties in Vegas are going up by 30, 40% every year in value. So my greed kicked in and I'm like, okay. And the realtor said the same thing. Paper said the same thing. Everybody's got to be right about this stuff, right? So I literally picked the top spot of where real estate is, Las Vegas, where it's going up in value. And then I picked the top spot where it was actually at the height. And I had bought two properties. One, in 2005, I just bought the dirt. I remember walking on the dirt and being like, would you buy this to my realtor? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, buy it. And then, so that was $310,000. Then I bought a condo conversion, which is basically the apartment that some guy converted into a condo and was reselling. I bought that for $184,000. Those two properties negatively cash flowed $2,500 a month. Making $215,000 a year was like, okay, whatever. But then quit my job, going all into real estate. I'm bleeding away my savings. And that was the best. I almost went bankrupt is the best way to say it. Like I literally held on for dear life. And I actually had to move back to Seattle for 8 months to get a job selling radio again for $100,000, which I was making 215 before, just to pay the bills and not go under. I had negative $26,000 in credit card debt. And just everything was going wrong. And so when I realized that happened and I had really made such a bad decision, it actually took me out of the market for 5 years. I just started selling houses. And once I started selling houses and I started selling for the banks, I got the banks. So for those of you guys who are listening who don't know what this is, I became an REO agent when banks foreclose on a property and nobody buys them at the auction. They go back into the bank's balance sheet and what is known as an REO, which means real estate owned on the balance sheet. Okay. So when they put them back on the balance sheet, they got to sell them because they don't want to keep them. So they hire agents. During the foreclosure crisis, they were hiring lots of agents and I happened to get in early. Okay. So I'd sold in 5 years, I sold 2,200 homes. So that obviously helped me with my financial situation. So in 2009, I was like, well, because I had been struggling, Matt, with this decision of everybody's letting their properties go to foreclosure in Vegas, everybody, or they're short selling, right? Which is basically they're lying to the mortgage company to try to get them to forgive the debt. And God bless my mom, but she raised me with really good morals. A lot of times I wish I didn't have them, to be honest with you, because I could make a lot of moves if I wasn't always having my mom in my mind. And, she just told me, she never said anything about it, but I thought if I'm sitting with a guy across the table at a bank in 10 years and I have to explain why I let this one go to foreclosure, I've got to explain with this. I'm going to say, well, I made a business decision. And he's going to say yeah, you made a business decision now and then, and I'm not going to lend you money. So I held on to those things for 17 years. And I bought, and I started buying the properties for cash when they were $19,000, $20,000 in Vegas, which everybody thought I was a fool for back then. All the realtors it's going to get lower. I'm like, I'll buy more. And so I just started doing that and buying those properties, made a bunch of lessons there, how to vet tenants, because I put the wrong people in, but just kept after it. I haven't stopped since.
Yeah, that's an education, right?
It's totally an education.
I tell guys all the time, I have not done near as many deals as you have at all, but
you do big deals.
I try to. And they get bigger every time, right? We get more ambitious.
Yeah.
But it's risk, but it's calculated risk. And I think these guys starting out, I tell them you got to take these risks, but you need to analyze it. Don't spend all your time analyzing it. You got to have a time where even if you don't have it all figured out, you got to move forward, but take a calculated risk rather than just, I'm going to give that a shot and not really look into it.
Yeah.
Because a young guy, you can only take so many L's, especially right out the gate.
Yeah.
That's going to set you back 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally 5 years. It set me back big time.
But everybody who's self-made to a degree, at some point has to experience that. It's like buying into a franchise model or you start, grassroots. The grassroots is harder, but long-term is going to make more sense and more profitable. And it's something that you built. It's a lot harder.
Well, I bought a franchise in 2013 when I thought I wanted to get into flipping houses. I bought a We Buy Ugly Houses franchise.
I know of that one.
Yeah. And it was $15,000. And I'd already had, probably over 100 properties at that point in time. And when I got in there, I was like, this is stupid, but I stuck with it for a year and I didn't do very well at it. I went back to doing it myself, gave them their franchise back and moved on.
So what would you get with that? Just a network of funding? And
you just get a brand name and then you go into an ad. What is it called? The way We Buy Ugly Houses does everything is they have an ad group. So every member in that Kansas City region will chip in X number of dollars, and they're literally on a phone rotation or a lead rotation based on the amount of money that they spend. But that's all you get with them. They don't have any proprietary software. They might have a contract. They might have this. They might have this. The guy who's been running it, David Hicks, is the same guy who's been running it for a long time. There is no innovation. I don't even think this guy invests in real estate. It's a really, really old school way, but they do have great brand name.
Huh. Yeah. I'm aware of who they are.
Yeah. They're big in Kansas City, actually.
Okay.
My buddy's the number one franchise out here. The guy who got me into it out in Vegas is out here in Kansas City.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you also got commercial real estate. 2 years ago? Then you bought a skyscraper downtown?
Yeah. So my first commercial property I bought in 2013 with an SBA loan in Vegas. Sold that one right before we moved out here for $2.6 million. So bought it for 1.3. Bought another one, owner financing, 2014 for 1.45. You were in the building that I bought for 1.3. That's where we did our podcast. I sold that one. And then I bought another one in 2016, which actually I'm going to offer. I bought it for 1.5 owner financing. I've got an offer for 4.5 on it right now. And the realtor's been blowing me up for 5 days. I haven't even.
Is that in Vegas or here?
Yeah, that's in Vegas.
Okay.
I'm just like, do I want to sell it? Do I not want to sell it? It's a creative deal. And then I bought a commercial towing lot because I told you I bought a towing business, which is the dumbest decision you could ever make.
I don't know. I have a short-term rental RV and that's pretty dumb.
Well, yeah. Well, towing business has lots of employees. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And lots of felons employees and lots of felon customers. It's just a recipe for freaking trouble. And you're taking people's cars.
Yeah. You've told me some of the stories.
Oh yeah. If I had a video camera back on me back then, it was
be viral.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on. So the building downtown, what's your plan with the big skyscraper you have downtown? That's where you're hosting the Millionaire Mentor conferences and stuff like that, right? You're coaching.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So in 2021, a friend of mine, his name's Ryan Pineda. He's a guy out in Vegas, and I was selling him my junk properties, and he started putting stuff out on social media. And at that point in time, I just had a troll account, one of those accounts like no name, no posts, just to look at other people's stuff.
Okay.
And so I started me and another guy, Josh Galindo, were pretty seasoned flippers, and we were kind of hating on this guy in the background. Like, why is he posting his profits? Why is he doing that? And this is not the way you do things. You know what I mean? You keep
worked.
Yeah, exactly. So finally I was like, hey man, let's go grab lunch. So I hit up Brian, let's go grab lunch. We go grab lunch and became kind of fast friends real quick. And then, we went in and he basically told me, well, like, this is how much money I'm making on education. He showed me his Stripe account, to break down. I was like, I'm in, I'm all in. So once he did that, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, he's got less experience than me. He's being very successful at this. I've got way more information, way more experience, but I don't know social media like he does.
Right.
And so I went all in and I launched in June of 2022, I launched the Millionaire Mentorship Coaching Program. And since then, we've helped hundreds of people. But more importantly than that, we've had several people become multimillionaires
nice.
in a couple of years. And you can driving around here in Kansas City, I see my guys' trucks. I see people that have retired. And it's a really good feeling, kind of probably similar to somebody actually changing their body composition and changing their life and changing the way they feel about themselves. So it's been a very rewarding process. I put profits last, to be honest with you. I've really focused on the student first.
You're established, so you're able to do that.
Yes.
I think that's the difference, right? If the guys that get into it would be a self-proclaimed guru who may have done 2 deals, all of a sudden they think they need to coach people. The same thing with fitness and competing.
Yeah.
People do a show and they all of a sudden they know it all and they want to get paid to tell other people when really they're just passing on the plan they bought from somebody else to somebody else with their name on it. You know what I mean? So
it's a lot of that out there for sure.
Yeah. So it's like having years and years of experience and being established, being successful in multiple different areas allows you to just add value because you generally want to see people succeed. It's cool. I got the book.
Did you?
Yeah. We have 2 copies.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We got it in Spanish too.
Oh, well, I don't speak Spanish. So I should. Gosh.
I know.
I wish I did. I just got back from the Dominican and it's I was looking at real estate when I was down there.
Punta Cana?
No, I was in Carete, I think is what it is, in Sosa, which it's on I believe it's the southwest side of the island. It's definitely not as touristy.
Yeah. What were we doing down there?
Just getting away. Cause I have my medical clinics and we're launching 32 states on Monday on telemedicine.
You're not that ambitious.
We got to get to 50. That's the goal by the end of the year, but that launches Monday. And so I'm going to be swamped. And so I was like, man, if I'm going to get out of town, I'm going to go. And my lead marketing agent, she's from the Dominican. She's like, go here. So it wasn't as touristy as Punta Cana, not as nice, honestly, but it's a very authentic experience.
Yeah. What do you think about the Dominican Republic?
It's so impoverished.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm a Mexico guy, and when I went to Dominican, I was like, this is just a resort. I just drove I just flew all these flights to get to a big Americanized resort, and driving through it, I just saw a bunch of BS, and I'm I don't think I'll go back.
Yeah, I mean, so where I was at, there's not even resorts that I came across. It's like boutique hotels, Airbnbs, and then the beaches are pretty nice, but it's so much poverty. I mean, I walked a ton while I was there. I for some reason, I usually get a car, but they told me like, oh, you don't want to drive down here. I'm like, whatever. All right. So I Ubered, which was an event in itself. It was cheap, but they pull over about half a mile. Like, hey, by the way, that's not the fare. You're going to pay me this much more. And I'm like, this is shakedown a little bit.
Well, you got big muscles.
Yeah, no, I didn't have too much of a problem, but even when they shake you down, and it's like $15 and for like a 20-minute ride, and you're like, I'd pay 50 in Kansas City, so yeah, whatever, take it. But I liked it. It's cool. The dollar goes a long way. It's impoverished for sure. There's not big resorts like you see in Mexico, at least where I was at. Yeah. But you see some pretty cool boutique hotels. And it's an experience, but yeah, I mean, as soon as you step out of that hotel, it's like, it can get rough. The last place I stayed, I had to walk about 1.5 miles to go eat dinner. And of course I don't have groceries.
Sounds like a vacation.
I dig it. I like walking. I get on,
Me too.
I get in adventures like around Kansas City. If I'm walking, I have my head down on my phone there. I just look up and I take it all in. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But I went to a late dinner. I worked while I was down there. I was just doing Zoom calls. But I went to a late dinner at like 8:30, and I met some guys from America. So I hung out, and next thing I know, it's like, I don't know, midnight, and I'm walking back, and my place that I stayed was pretty nice. It was a penthouse, right?
Yeah.
But the gate, as you walk past the gate, you don't even know it's there. And I missed it at like midnight, and I'm in the deep city where everybody that works at these places, this is where they live.
Right.
And so I'm walking through these streets like, man, I messed up. Like it's midnight, and I went like 1/2 mile past where I should have turned back there. And so nobody messed with me, but I knew I put myself in a position that It was like, I'm on guard. Luckily, I'm not exactly the first target. If somebody's going to go look for somebody, I'm not small.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty alpha. So I walked with purpose for sure.
Yeah.
When it's midnight and it's dark on those streets, I acted like I ran that because kind of have to.
Well, I think too, just from our conversations in Dallas, like, you know how to handle yourself. So you're not probably too worried about it. Like
sure.
Almost anticipated it, I would imagine. I know how for me, like I'm not looking for trouble, but if trouble finds me,
Right. No, I mean, I can definitely handle myself, but I mean, to what degree? To 3 guys? Maybe. I mean, outside of that. And what do you do with a knife? Like you get stabbed. Yeah. Ain't much you can do, no matter how jacked you are. So luckily everybody's cool. Like I say that I felt a little intimidated at that moment, but everybody was really cool.
Yeah.
So I had no problems. I think Dominican's great. I did look at real estate down there. It's all built by the Haitians. All these Haitians come in and
they're right next door.
Yeah. And they work. I mean, they do good work, and apparently they pay them like $15 a day. So it's kind of sad, but I don't know if I'll invest down there or not. I like the area. It's a chill vibe in certain areas. It's really like just slow paced, which I can dig because it gets so hectic around here.
Totally.
But I'm with you. I'm kind of a Cabo Tulum type of guy.
I'm more Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
That's my deal.
Okay.
Like, I know everybody in Kansas City, they fly to Cancun and go down to Tulum or wherever else. But I grew up in Washington State, and we had direct flights from Puerto Vallarta all the time. There must have been some deal with Alaska Airlines because like, even moving to Vegas, there's no direct flights to Puerto Vallarta. Moving to Kansas City, it's closer, it's better, and, so Puerto Vallarta has been my jam. I've watched that city grow from like the age of 18. I've been going down there for 28 years now. And I just love it. I actually probably will relocate there eventually.
Do you have property down there?
I don't.
I know you look.
Oh, I do.
Every time I go on vacation, I convince myself I need to own something here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And with Mexico, my wife was very, very, very resort. She grew up with a very protective mom who was like, everything's bad outside the resort. It's all trouble. Like, in fact, when we first were going on a date, I was like, let's go to Rosarito, Mexico. We'll drive down there. She's like, my mom won't let me go. I'm like, you're like 39. So she was very, for the first couple of years we went to Mexico, she wouldn't go anywhere that wasn't the resort really. And so finally, when I went on this trip with one of my videographers to Mexico to make some content and kind of check some things out to buy, I stayed at this random Airbnb, which was like gated in a condo, really nice, close to everything. And I was like, I think she'll like it here. I was like, if you trust me, let's try this one out. And she and we've stayed there probably 10 times since then.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
love Puerto Vallarta.
I've been there. Mexico in general, for the most part, tourism's so important that they take pretty good care of Americans, tourists in general. And it's pretty safe. But of course, you go to the wrong areas, you're going to get into some trouble potentially.
Let me be very clear. Mexico is safer than the United States, period.
Yeah.
100%. You go walk on Prospect. Okay. I own a lot of properties, as you know, off of Prospect.
Yeah, I don't go walking on Prospect.
So I know Prospect very well. I know every street, couple streets up, couple streets down. And we could take the same thing. Let's go to Baltimore. Let's go to Chicago. Let's go wherever. It's way more dangerous in the United States than it is in Mexico. I've been saying it for a long time. It's the media that doesn't want us to travel there and spend our dollars there that makes it seem like it's dangerous, but it's not dangerous at all. The only place I've traveled where I've had that spider sense, and it's not in Mexico, it was in South Africa.
Okay.
When I went to South Africa, I could feel it where I was like, okay, heads on a swivel, heads on a swivel, but Mexico, no way.
Yeah. And you're talking about safety and dangers. Kansas City just surpassed Chicago in gun violence and murder.
Yeah.
That's insane. I don't see it. I'm not downtown. I'm not like around that stuff, but it's wild. I never really thought Kansas City to be that dangerous. And then, you looking at the statistics, we have more crime now than Chicago. That's wild. I don't understand why that is, but it seems like it's a lot. What do you think?
Well, there's number one reason is Gene Peters Baker, who's the Jackson County prosecuting attorney, who will not prosecute any crimes.
Well, it's just those guys that shot up at the Super Bowl party and killed people. Those guys, are they on probation? I heard that was it a Jackson County court?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I heard that and I don't quote me on this, but we were talking to a gentleman yesterday and he's like, they got probation and there's people dead after this.
I don't even know. I can't speak about that case. I know what happened to it, but I can tell you that from talking to a lot of law enforcement in and around the properties that I own, they laugh because they're like, it doesn't matter what we do. She's not prosecuting. And so that's number one. But that comes from a top stream problem, which, I'm not going to speak bad about anybody on the city council in the mayor's office, but that's a top stream problem. Like if whoever's running the city, if they put, hey, we're going to eradicate crime and not use it as a talking point so people feel safe. We're actually going to prosecute criminals. And there's actually bring back in the people cleaning up off the streets. You know what I mean? If you did a crime, go clean up, go give you a paintbrush and have supervision, put these guys to work and then give them some purpose versus and then the drugs on top of the drugs, all the drugs that are going on. People don't care. They're oblivious. I've had people try to burn down my houses out here and stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah. 28th and Van Brunt, dude. I had to finally sell it because my wife's like, you're going to die because you won't quit. And this guy doesn't seem like he will either. And we were going back. He tried to burn it down a few times. So I tried to catch him. He burned down 3 houses in that neighborhood. So yeah, that's why I say Kansas City. When people are like, "Oh, it's not. It's just unfamiliar." Like when you went to Punta Cana or the Dominican, it was unfamiliar. I bet you if you stayed there for a few weeks, you've been walking around there without your shirt on and be like, "Hey, man,
well, I was doing that anyway."
What's up, Matt? What's up? Yeah. So I really think that we're so brainwashed in the United States to say that all these other countries are dangerous because they just don't want us to leave.
Might be right. I don't know.
An Uber driver in Mexico told me that, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I keep an eye on things, but I try and stay a little bit out of the politics as well because I don't know. It's just a lot of energy. Yeah, I try and keep a pulse of it, but not get overly involved. But it's tough with Kansas City. It seems like it's these guys in their late teens that are the ones getting in all the gun violence. Like these kids that shot up the Super Bowl parade, they were minors, right? I think they were 18. They weren't even supposed to be able to possess a gun. Yeah. So it's not the gun. Yeah. That's not how you solve the policy. And, our mayor is definitely Democratic liberal, which I think he's done a pretty good job on a lot of things. I can agree with him. But
what would those things be?
Just how I thought he fell in line fairly well with COVID, tolerated it. He didn't go overboard. hindsight's 2020, right? Like we shouldn't have done anything. I got my businesses closed down, no doubt, and it hurt.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like, I think he just kind of fell in line with what everybody else in the state was doing. So you can't really fault him for that. I'm just glad it wasn't a California deal, or Vegas. Or Vegas, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't terrible. That being said, there's so much work towards inclusion and everything now. And it's like, I get it. And I do think everybody needs to be respected and treated fairly, but let's focus on some real problems that we have.
Yeah, they got an organization, KC Tenants. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're pretty much running that city council. If you look at everything that's getting passed, that's why there's been no housing improved. It's an organization run by a girl named Tara something or other. I can't remember her last name, but she runs. If you look at the most powerful person that controls city council, in fact, one of the guys on city council was a leader of KC Tenants. Jonathan Duncan. I actually met with him. He's a nice guy. You know, we don't align, but on everything. But my goal is, I'm like, if you guys really are interested in solving this problem, then let's talk. Mm-hmm. If you're not interested in solving the problem, you're just doing this political, then just keep saying stuff. But if you really want to solve it, you got to get together with the people who are actually providing the housing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's so much that goes along just with the party. They just want to support the party, whatever it is. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And something's going to change.
Yeah, I don't think everybody, the way I talk to is like, nothing's changing for at least the next 4 years because of the council that's in there right now.
Is that right?
Yeah. Except for we do have a Jackson County prosecutor's office that's going out for election right now. Actually, I had Tracy Chappelle, a really good candidate, on my podcast. But yeah, I think I think if you fix that, you fix the city. Like, people want to feel safe no matter where you're at. Like, I feel safe out in the Northland. Like, whatever.
Right.
Like, let's let it go.
Sure.
But I don't think people, even in the inner city where most of those crimes are happening, I don't think they feel safe. And I think if you make those people feel safe and you make those houses nice, then you fix the whole city.
Yeah. I have a handful of friends, guys that work out in my gyms that are police officers.
Yeah. And
they're telling me, they're like, guys, Matt, these are like late teens, these young black kids that are coming from fatherless homes. Yeah. And they're just idolizing these other gangbangers. And they think that's what their path is.
Yeah.
And now maybe that's not totally accurate, but that's the feedback I've been getting. And it makes sense. It's like, they got to find a way to give these guys some sort of support or opportunity, or, I don't know. I don't have the answer, and to be a tough position to be in, but that's what their job is. And that's needs to be solved one way or another, because Kansas City is getting known to be dangerous. That's wild, because it's an awesome city. It
is. I love it out here. I think that when you talk about Kansas City being dangerous, I think it's one part. I don't think it's like the entire thing. I don't think I don't think it's dangerous downtown.
Sure.
I don't think it's dangerous in Midtown. I lived in Midtown. You have an office in Midtown. I know there's some activity.
Right.
But the danger is east of 71.
Yeah. Yeah. The downtown, like the Midtown Westport area, that's more like homeless and drug addicts.
Yeah.
And not so much like gun violence.
Right. I actually did do an Instagram post one time on my deck on the one that I owned when I was working out at the Westport one.
Uh-huh.
And I heard ta 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 one in the back. I'm like, I'm not posting that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think you go east of 71.
Yeah.
For the next 5 miles.
That's where all my properties are at. I know exactly everything. If you want from 10th to 80th. East of 71 is where all my stuff is.
Yeah.
So I know it very well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there's obviously opportunity there because you've done really well with the real estate. So right on.
I think there'll be better opportunity if they actually try to make that area better.
Yeah. So real quick on the real estate stuff, tell me a little bit, I know it was a process about building your house here, because you have a massive house. A very expensive house that is a lot more expensive than you initially planned, correct? And why is that?
I'm more of a shoot first, aim later type of guy.
Sure.
Which sometimes works well because I take action.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably one of my better traits. But, you're going to make mistakes on things. And I told my wife going in, I said, hey, I've never built a house with a basement. I've built several new houses. Mm-hmm. And I've just said, I've never built one with a basement. I don't know what that's all about. And that's where we got hung up in the beginning. We had a guy rip us off on the dirt, and we had the concrete guys who did the wall. They didn't do a great job. So we really had a hard time getting out of the ground. And then just from coming from first of all, I would say that a couple of things I did wrong was, COVID had a lot to do with that because the supply chain, my lumber bid should have been 60 grand. It ended up being $180,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I think that if I was to do it all over again, I would have put a lot more proposals out for bids versus the way we did it. But I was brand new here. I didn't have anybody. So I'm just kind of like trying to find the person that's willing to work because everybody was so slammed.
It's really hard, especially that time. Yeah. I think it's still difficult to find good subs, but that's what it comes down to is you live and die on your subcontractors. Yeah. I was a commercial contractor. I did residential and then finished out as commercial, but for 15 years. And I came to Kansas City to do my first gym up here and I couldn't find anybody. I sent it out for a bid and these guys would bid it so ridiculously high that, if you took it, they would do it because it's such a good profit margin for them, but they have so much opportunity in other jobs. They'll bid things high because they don't want to get 10 jobs at a fair price. They want to get one job at the 10X price, and compound that. And I understand that. I mean, that's capitalism, right? I guess to a degree that's trying to earn as much money as possible. But that's, in my mind, that's a poor move if you're trying to run a long race because you're going to make a lot of money now. But when things switch up and maybe they're not going to for a while, but all of a sudden, there's less demand and more supply, then that contractor is going to have a name like, well, yeah, I used him last time. He totally bent me over and I had to do it, but I'll never do it again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a give and take there. And, you're talking about morals earlier and like your moral compass. That was one reason I really struggled as a contractor because I had sympathy for my clients and I wanted to hit a home run for them at all times. Whereas you almost have to turn your conscience off sometimes to be super successful, especially in construction. Right. And that's kind of why I've tapered out of it. I'm still a licensed contractor. I still have my insurance, but it's just my own projects now. Yeah. I don't work for anybody else. It was a means to an end for me, but real estate's an excellent way for guys to build wealth, obviously. And you have the program, which I want, before we get off here, I want you to give us a little bit of a plug so some people can tap into it. But I mean, for me, I had no money. The funny thing is my first business was a lawn mowing business also. Yeah, dude. With my next door neighbor, his name is Matt also, is M2 Mowing or M&M Mowing, right? Where his dad would pull a trailer behind an El Camino and take us to our jobs. Then I did work on a paper route and then I worked at McDonald's. I worked on farms too, like painting fences and stuff.
Yeah, 'cause you're from the rural part, right?
From McPherson, between Wichita and Salina. So
what's the population?
14,000.
Okay. So that was like Issaquah back in the day.
Okay.
A little small one-night stoplight town type of thing. Got a McDonald's and whatever else. Grocery store. But I think that as far as real estate's concerned and construction's concerned, so first of all, there's not enough Latin people up in Kansas City. Let's just be really clear about that. Because in Vegas, the reason why I thought it was going to be so expensive is I'm like, okay, houses in Vegas are X number of dollars, which are like call them 4X what the prices are out here. And so I know what my labor rates are out there, and they're way less than they were here. Well, because there's a lot of supply of Latino people in Vegas. 50% of that marketplace is Latino. In Kansas City, that's not the same here. Okay. So you've got a lot of unionized guys who are, hardcore union. I talked to a guy the other day who came to one of my meetups. I'm like, what do you charge for framing per foot? Now I know all across the country that ranges from on the very low end, $3 and usually what I would see is 7 being the high. This guy was like, I don't touch anything for 11. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like, the last time I'd heard about framing being that expensive was in a place called Angel Fire, New Mexico, where they're lifting up mountain houses and big old beams. And he was having to import contractors to come up to that mountain.
I got you.
Now those guys are local in Kansas City are charging $10, $12 per foot on just framing a house. That's crazy.
Yeah. And everybody's concerned about interest rates. And I get that. But what people are missing, maybe not everybody, but what I think is the cost of skilled labor. Yeah. It's not going down because the average skilled laborer is mid 40s, 50s. And there's not a lot of young guys coming up as apprentices. There's some, but everybody is trying to do online stuff, influencing, which whatever, to each their own. I mean, we're doing a podcast. I'm not going to hate on it, but we need skilled labor
stuff before.
Well, that's the reason I was able to. I had no money when I graduated college. So I worked construction and, I learned a trade, and that served me well because I've built almost my 4 gyms that I have right now. I've built them out with guys, but I mean, I was a licensed GC, so I learned the trade so I could do it myself because I didn't have money. I used that sweat equity as my down money. Luckily I had a bank that was, wanting to grow, and they saw, okay, when you build it, it's going to be worth this. This is what it's going to cost you to build it. That $30K difference, we'll count that as your down. Right. So I was able to use my sweat equity as down money, which was the only way I was able to start because I had no money. And then you do that a few times in compound and you make the right decisions. You don't take an L. Hopefully.
You also did an SBA loan too, right?
I did
on the first one, right?
The very first one. Yeah, it was an SBA. I think SBA 504. I don't know. Generally, the SBAs have worked out really well for me.
Well, I mean, it's the best way to get into commercial property. That's what I'm saying. Like it's the lowest down payment.
Right.
10%.
Right.
And it's your own gym. It makes a lot of sense to do an SBA loan.
Sure. Yeah. I've done, half a dozen SBA loans by now. And the thing is with the SBA, everybody knows they want to know more about you than you know about yourself.
1000%.
So it's a frustrating process, but ultimately it's good. And as you probably have now, you get a track record with them. And that matters because you've hit home runs every other deal with them. And they're like, well, he's done it good in the past. He's got a track record that matters in this situation. So SBAs are good. I think for young guys that are trying to build wealth, you don't have money, learn a skilled trade and learn how to add value. And then be able to have sweat equity and build and just kind of stack that compound. And it's not a quick thing. It's not crypto.
No.
Your Bitcoin's not going to double overnight in construction. It's going to take years like you did, but it's delayed gratification like anything. And it worked out for you. It's worked out for me. But real quick, if people want to know, this is exactly the type of stuff you're going through, right? Is commercial deals and stuff like that in your program. Right. So where can they get access to you?
Yeah. So we basically on all my socials, which is just look up Troy Kearns on any of them. We're active on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, not really X or anything like that, but mainly all the main socials, Facebook, everything like that. And we have a program called the Millionaire Mentorship program. And actually it's funny because the way that program started, the way that name developed was when I was first launching it, I was so confident of my ability to do a flip in any country, any state in the US. And so I put a contest out and I said, hey, if you've got a property and you want an opportunity to flip, like, comment, and share this video, and I'll pick one of you out of a hat and I'll flip a house with you. Okay. And so I did that. A guy won who's an electrician in Houston, Texas. And that's when we came up with the name, the Millionaire Mentorship. So I basically mentored him. We did a flip with him and split the profits on that deal. He made a bunch of money. I made a bunch of money. And then I launched the program after that. And since then, like I said, it's a lot of the people who are coming through, they've either not done a deal or they've done a couple deals and they're trying to figure it out. And we have students that get me so excited. Like I just got a guy, Devin Stubbs, who joined 70 days ago. He's already got his first flip done with a $52,000 profit. And he was a hard sell, meaning that he didn't want to buy the program. We had to really push him. And now he's like one of the best guys like in our program just because he's so active. He's so on it. He was just very worried about somebody ripping him off on the internet, which I get,
right?
Because there are a lot of fake gurus.
Oh yeah. 100%.
I never even thought that because I just think like, well, if I'm telling it real, why would somebody be out there and lie about it? There's a lot of fakes.
Oh yeah. So you also do these events with Millionaire Mentorship. Do you have one coming up or
October 7th? Yeah. We got
here in Kansas City,
October 7th. We do them different than a lot of these other masterminds are just to get you out there and like, kind of like what we did, right? When we went to the real estate syndication, it's like get you kind of fired up, but don't really give you enough information to do anything.
Try and resell you on other things.
Yeah. So we don't really do that. We bring them out. We bring them. First day is in the classroom. with speakers and education. And the second day we go out in the streets, we get them on a bus.
I've seen that.
And we show them
That's awesome.
Yeah. Cause that's the way I learn.
Yeah.
I'm not going to learn by you not showing me why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? We could talk about theory, but when you're in a property, I can point out hey, this is where we screwed up. This is where we made mistakes. And this is where we could have done better. This is what we're going to make on this property. And then now the coolest thing is on that bus tours, my students' properties. And the last one, it was so cool. I walk up to the property. I don't even know the bus route because we've got it down now where it's I'm less hands-on.
Sure.
And so when I go up to this property that we're touring with my students, I'm like, wait, I looked at this one. I looked at this property. And I'm like, what did you get this one for? And he's like, 76. I was like, I made an offer for 75,000, but I was so happy for him. And he literally had his buyers on that tour. They were there with the realtor.
Oh, wow.
And he made $42,000 on that deal. And this is a guy who showed up for one of our random meetups that I did at Top Golf out here in Overland Park. And he didn't think he needed a coach. And I convinced him, I'm like, hey, you're doing good. I get it. You wanted to meet me. I get it. But meeting me is not going to change you. Buying into the coaching program, because he was just trying to buy rentals and hustle his ass off. I was like, you need to flip, bro. You need to flip. So he started flipping and now he's going to make $400,000 this year flipping. He lives in a place called, you probably know, Emporia, Kansas.
Oh, yeah. My brother-in-law.
Actually lives in Bellevue, I think, Kansas or something like that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have a bunch of my family went to Emporia State.
Okay. Yeah. I don't even know where that is, but that's Tony Pfeiffer. And it's really cool. It's really rewarding to see all these guys like that. You started a coaching program, and because you started a coaching program, these guys did the work. I didn't do the work, but they listened to me and they did the work. And it's like, you can train somebody in the gym, but if they don't do the work, they're not going to get the result.
Sure.
And so these guys, a lot of these guys and women I've seen retire from their 9-to-5. They're working in real estate, but I've seen them be able to quit their job, be in design of their own life. And so it's something that's super exciting. But if somebody's interested in it and you're interested in getting mentorship, I would love to help you.
Nice. Yeah. It's like Cliff Notes and make you progress in an efficient manner rather than taking 5-10 years of, licks the whole way and figuring it out on your own. Learn from you. And I like the fact that you will tell the successes and the failures.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both interesting. The failures are hilarious sometimes. You can get yourself in some situations that are priceless, but I love it.
I've got one right now.
It's real. It's real.
I got one right now that we've literally been dealing with for 2 years. We bought this fourplex, paid off or got hard money, gonna flip it. Contractor doesn't pull the right permits on it. We get a stop work order, going through that stop work order process. I think I even told you about this property, 2210 East 34th. Remember that one I asked you for help for?
Yeah. I met with the city 3 times about it for you.
Yes. Right. We've had a buyer for 400,000. The listing contract's about ready to expire because it's been 6 months. We literally just had our final inspection with a bunch of little items to check to get through that whole situation.
Okay. Well, looks like it's going to close.
Oh yeah. It's going to close, but
cool.
I mean,
that's cool.
I mean, geez, that's been it's
been a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
That's a failure for sure.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap up here, but I got a few quotes I just wanted to read to you.
Okay.
And you tell me if it's bogus, if it's real, or if there's anything you want to say about it. I just found them interesting.
Okay, cool.
I was going through some of my notes from when we were in Dallas. Some of these are off of there.
It's good you're that organized that you could find them.
Well, I'm trying to work a deal right now. I'm trying to build a syndication deal. So I've been working through it, but all right. So Jim Rohn, make yourself valuable to valuable people.
Yeah. 100% agree. And let me just kind of say something. So we're always looking for people to work on our team. And most people, they'll send me a message and they'll be like, hey, I want to learn from you. Hey, I want to do this from you. And it's like, what are you giving me?
Right.
Why would I ever want to work with somebody who just wants to take?
Dude, Andy Frisella says that all the time. It says, you need to add value. Don't just ask for something. That's the way life should be in general. If you want to approach somebody, you want to work with them on something, you should be able to bring them value, show them value. And then as a result, they'll work with you. The guys are just like, hey, and I get it all the time. I want you to show me how to open a gym. Like, man, I don't even know you, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not opposed to it, but I don't have a lot of bandwidth. And then 2, where are you going to do this? I'm not going to build a competitor, but yeah, I think that's important. I think especially early on, you need to be able to add value to situations that can get you a long way. Right. Even if you don't have any money, if you can add value in one way, shape or form to a deal you're working on or somebody else's deal, there's going to be something long-term for you if you can continue to do that. Right.
Let me tell you about something that just happened to me recently that I think is a great way for the youth or people who are trying to add value and get in somewhere. So we had a guy that applied to go for our program and he couldn't afford it. And so he showed up at our meetup and he took me to the side. Like he waited. He's a very quiet guy. He's a young 20-year-old Hispanic dude out of Kansas City. He comes up to me. His name's David. And he said, I'll work for you for free. I said, I said, I'm going to make it hard. And he says, I don't care. I want to work for you. I want to learn from you. And I'm willing to work for you for free. I said, no matter how long it takes. I said, no matter how long it takes. I said, so I hired that dude. And I said to my Danny, who runs my deal, I said, he's like, I'm going to have him do, no. I said, no. Throw every shit job that we have at that guy. I said, I break him. Because if he starts that way and he makes it, he's going to be one of our best guys.
Okay.
And I hired him that next week.
Right on.
And he's been solid.
And I've had this conversation before on a podcast. It's like no job should be above or below you.
None.
You know what I mean? Yeah. If something needs to get done and it's not getting done, that needs to be done one way or another. And
I guarantee you're the first guy that looks at the parking lot and says, there's trash in the parking lot. Bro.
Yeah, drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts, but I'm a kind of a CD.
Yeah.
All right. Another one for you. Let's do a different one. Value yesterday, but live in today.
Value yesterday, but live in today. The way I interpret that quote would be like, learn from your mistakes of yesterday, but don't kind of go back and beat yourself up about them, which I do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important thing is to not, you can't go back and make the decisions over again. You've already made them. So live in the moment and reflect on your mistakes and try to get better. So I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. 100% right. Like I think some people in business and relationships, you can get locked into dwelling on things that didn't work. And if it freezes you and you don't move forward, then that's obviously a negative, but you also want to consider it. So you learn from what happened so you can be better on the next move. Right.
Yeah. Well, any personal decisions you made too, that can haunt you. Like you feel like with the foreclosures and stuff, you're like, it crippled me for 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Okay. So this is more in regards to like running a team.
Okay.
And this is something I don't think a lot of guys think about when you get into business is you think about the cool thing of owning real estate or building a team or me with the gyms, but you don't think about how much of a leadership role it's going to be. Right. So this one says, as a leader, stay ahead of the team. How important do you think that is?
I think I need to become a better leader.
Same.
And so one thing that I have reflected on is like, as a visionary, I'm like, why doesn't everybody understand what the hell I'm trying to do? Well, because I'm not a good communicator. I'm not a good leader. And so I would just say that I'm not smart enough to answer that question yet. And that my goal for the next 24 to 48 months, I've heard this a lot, especially from a guy named Buy Back Your Time. Forget what the author's name is, but Dan something or other. But he says, if you want to build a business, it's fine. You can build a business. But if you want to build a great company, you got to become an excellent leader and really get everybody around you to be the best version of themselves. And that's really what I want to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not the best leader either. And that's the exact same reason, because I'm not the best communicator. I worked on it a lot over the past 3-5 years, but I have 3 sisters. I'm the only boy. I'm the youngest. I spend a lot of time doing things by myself and a lot of internal dialogue. Right.
We're same upbringing. Like, I'm very quiet. As my wife said the other day, she goes, Daddy doesn't like talking. He likes quietness. And I do like, that's the mowing the lawn thing. It's just like the sitting in your head thing and reflecting. 100%.
Yeah. And I think that's good to a degree.
Yeah.
Cause you kind of, exactly. Like, the thing, what I've realized is, I, for the longest time, especially when I was bodybuilding, I adopted this lone wolf. Yeah. Like, I can do it on my own. I don't need, and like, that's so dumb.
It is.
Cause you're never going to go that far.
It's like to prove it to yourself. I know the same exact thing. It's like, it's not about I can do it on my own. It's like, I'm going to show everybody else. That's how I look at it. It's like, it's not almost doing it on my own. It's like, nothing's going to stop me. And there is a good thing to do that. But then when you want to build a great organization, you realize that you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
And then you have to rely on other people. And when I look at companies that have done that well, I look at Southwest Airlines and I say, that's a company who has done that well. But there's not a lot of companies that have really done that well, where you feel like they've got great company culture. They've got great buy-in from their employees, or, the employees can make the right decision, and the employees understand the core values. By the way, I like your book you got right there. 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yep. I need to get my Millionaire Mentorship book up here.
Shit.
I don't know where it is.
It is right here.
Is it? Okay, cool.
Boom. There we go.
What up? I wasn't lying. I don't lie. Ever. For the record, ever. Cool, man. Let's do one more and we'll close it out. And I think you would definitely agree with this. I think most people would. It says, move forward courageously in uncertainty. Uncertainty will always be.
Yeah, 1000%. I, in 2023, had a lot of setbacks. I will not talk about all of them because I signed some confidentiality agreements, but I got depleted in a lawsuit where I could have settled it for $4,500 7 years ago. And I decided to take it all the way to the federal Supreme Court. And I got what is called a home cooking. Okay. And it wasn't fair, but it really brought into that thing of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's easy to get tied into that situations and filled with rage and hate and all these other emotions. But I wouldn't befriended that attorney that crushed me. And I was like, I better have him on my side versus against me.
Okay.
So I totally agree with that type of stuff. Because adversity is the thing that makes you tough, and getting to know how tough you are. You can say you're tough. You can say you're this, you can say you're that, but until you've been faced with like a big hill to climb in business, or maybe you've like with QuickToe. I don't know if I told you this, the state of Nevada tried to shut me down.
Yeah, you did tell me.
Yeah. And I didn't do anything wrong. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if I did anything wrong. And you've seen this firsthand in New York with Trump right now. It doesn't matter if he did anything wrong. The system's fixed a lot of the times. And the sooner that people understand that, they just got to power through and believe in themselves, and good things are going to happen. Yeah.
And you learn a lot from it. I like it because the last part says uncertainty will always be. And I think it's a lot of people's struggle is they're like, I'm working on this building, I'm writing out this business plan. I'm working this out, working out the details. And they work that out for years. And it's like, I tell people it's good to plan, but write a date down, and that no matter how far you've gotten that plan figured out, on that day you execute. Because if you don't, sometimes you'll plan and plan and plan and never execute, because there's always going to be uncertainty. Because if you're waiting for it to be crystal clear, that's not going to happen. Yeah. I'm like you. I'm going to build a parachute on the way down. You know what I mean? For better or worse.
Yeah. But you got to have self-belief, I think, is the biggest thing. Because I think that people that plan, they plan because they don't have self-belief. And I think guys like you and me, we don't really necessarily have a plan because we believe that we'll figure out the plan because we believe in ourselves.
I completely believe in myself. And there's never been anything, and especially a business, that I've had full faith in myself that hasn't worked. There's been some things that I've gotten involved in. I'm like, this could work. It doesn't always. Almost usually does not. So it's like, you can feel it, that internal passion, you know what I mean? And you got to have it. Otherwise, deal won't go through, or you're not going to put forth the effort it requires. So, man. It's been awesome talking to you guys.
Appreciate it.
Troy Kearns, Millionaire Mentor. Anything about real estate, he's the dude. Take advantage of it. October 7th, Millionaire Mentorship.
Yeah, for sure. And I also do weight training as well. So if you guys, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's my thing, dude.
No, I'm just messing with you, dude. I'm trying to drop. I'm down to 209, trying to get down to 185 by the end of this year.
Okay.
Just I don't want to be Matt Carstetter.
Well, we need to get your blood work done.
I just had it done the other day.
But not at Prime Recovery and Wellness.
Okay. So I need to get it done here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get you lined out.
Okay, cool.
All right, brother. Thank you, dude.
Thanks, brother, man. Appreciate it.